It is the most bizarre fighting stance I've ever seen, with his entire body pressed tightly against the ground, just like a beast poised to strike. As Pickle lunged forward, his speed reached a staggering 250 meters per second. In an instant, Retsukayo was completely overwhelmed and defeated. Just moments ago, Retsukayo had used the fluid combination of moves to knock Pickle to the ground, leaving him howling in pain. The doctor was shocked by the sight, yet he couldn't help but feel concerned for Retsukayo. He had previously performed a full-body examination on Pickle, discovered that his skeletal structure was far from human. Most unusual was his cervical spine, extraordinarily thick and resilient. It bore striking resemblance to that of large quadrupedal animals, leading the doctor to a bold conclusion before becoming a man. Pickle may have been a quadruped. At this point, Retsukayo launched an attack on Pickle, unaware that Pickle would evade it with such a bizarre posture. Then, dropping onto all fours, leaned forward, his stance mirroring that of a predatory beast. Retsukayo knew that Pickle was about to charge with everything he had, though he could have easily dodged the attack. As a master of Chinese martial arts, he refused to back down from this ultimate test of manhood. He took the stance of the Benquan, a signature of Kung Fu, intending to face his opponent head on. In that same instant, Pickle launched himself forward like a projectile. Let's get it unexpectedly. Retsukayo didn't even get a chance to strike before falling to Pickle's overwhelming speed. However, Pickle felt no joy in his victory. Instead, he walked toward Retsukayo with tears streaming down his face. Clearly, he intended to devour this honorable opponent. Saying this, Tokugawa was overcome with anxiety and rushed to the scene to stop him. But in the next second, he was met with a brutal slap. The sheer force knocked him straight to the ground. With a gut-wrenching roar from Pickle, he claimed Retsukayo's right leg as his prize. To him, this was also a primal way of saying farewell. Just as Pickle was about to fully devour Retsu, the doctor's sedative finally brought him down. Sometime later, Retsukayo woke up in a hospital bed. Looking at his gnawed-off right leg, he was consumed by a profound sense of shame. He had vowed to let Pickle feast on him if he lost the battle. Yet here, he was clinging to life, and even feeling a shameful relief for surviving. He, having received the news, arrived at the ward and looked at the scene before him in disbelief. After hearing the whole story, Baki urged Retsu not to be so hard on himself, knowing that Retsu is not one to ever break a promise. However, Retsu was still deeply troubled. He had claimed he was ready to face any consequence, but in truth, he wasn't prepared at all. His bravery was merely a facade. In the end, he felt he had deceived his opponent. This guilt is something he will never forget, but Baki saw it differently. Retsu had put his life on the line for his absolute pursuit of the fight. To Baki, that should be considered a great honor. Moreover, while the world only sees his peerless martial arts, his true value lies in his noble spirit. In a dark alleyway, a man was minding his own business when a massive hand suddenly grabbed him by the crotch and dragged him violently into a pile of trash. After a brief agonizing struggle, the man went completely still. Emerging from the shadows was a powerful titan, the primitive man Pickle. Stepping into modern society for the first time, he was awestruck by the bustling world. Yet he knew instinctively that to survive, he would have to adapt to this new jungle. Then he began to wander aimlessly, and before he knew it, he found himself on a busy road. Ignorant of traffic rules, he strode past a red light. The next second, a truck came barreling toward him. The massive impact sent Pickle flying at the same time. The front of the truck was crushed into the shape of a human. The driver rushed out to check on Pickle's condition, only to find him standing up completely unscathed. But Pickle quickly fixed his gaze on the truck. To him, any creature that dares to attack is not to be spared. He charged forward with a devastating rocket headbutt. Then, under the stunned gaze of bystanders, he seized the truck with both hands. He actually managed to lift the entire vehicle by sheer force. His immense grip literally tore the front of the truck apart. But even that wasn't enough to quench Pickle's rage. With a final crushing Hong Kong foot stomp, the truck was reduced to a heap of scrap metal. However, a savory scent wafting from the wreckage instantly piqued his interest. It turned out the truck was holding a massive load of meat. Starving and feral, he immediately began to feast. Elsewhere, Doppo Orochi was demonstrating karate to his students. With a single explosive punch, he shattered a block of ice 2.5 meters thick. Even steel wire was sliced in two by his swift hand sword strike. This overwhelming display of power left the students in absolute awe. Then Mr. Tokugawa called. Upon hearing that Retsukayo's right leg had been devoured by Pickle, Doppo's expression instantly turned grim. He broke the news to Katsumi, who was struck by utter disbelief. Listening to his father, he couldn't grasp how a pinnacle of Chinese martial arts could be preyed upon and eaten by Pickle in front of everyone. Then a weakling like me, who already lost to Retsu, would be even more insignificant in his eyes, wouldn't I? Katsumi, not a single word. Soon, the news that Retsukayo had been partially eaten. Like wildfire, news of it spread to the ears of warriors everywhere. Meanwhile, the doctor and Tokugawa discovered the destroyed security door, which meant that Pickle had officially set foot into modern society.
I can walk if he won't pick me up, or wait for me. He's the one who'll suffer. How might you do? but she was completely oblivious to the looming sense of crisis.
Remember, if you have any unpresentable clothes, wear them and make him buy you a new outfit from head to toe.
Her love for Jin Shui was based on total trust, but she overlooked how an environment can subtly and gradually change a person. Because Adi had originally tried to hide her background by lying that Shui was her mentally challenged younger brother. Xiaoguan believed Shui was single and began to develop feelings for him. As their professional and personal interactions increased, their underlying conflicts reached a boiling point during a dinner at a high-end restaurant. Adi not only ran into some clients while dancing, nearly exposing her identity, but her unrefined country habits, like treating caviar as if it were fried rice, drew snickers and whispers from the people around them.
I'm so done with her, she actually asked for an egg to be stir-fried with the caviar.
These comments stung Jin Shui's pride like 1,000 needles. Watching his wife feast without a care in the world, complex wave of emotions surged within him for the first time. He felt immense pressure and a tinge of embarrassment. He never imagined his beloved wife would appear as such a misfit in the eyes of others. From then on, Jin Shui began returning home later and later, spending more and more of his time with Xiaoguan. Through their long hours working together, Xiaoguan's affection for Jin Shui grew deeper. She invited him to join her in opening a new branch in Singapore, an invitation with self-evident underlying implications. On the day of their wedding anniversary, Shaki and Adi's sister came over to the new home to celebrate. Seeing that her sister liked Jin Shui's electronic organizer, Adi gave it to her. The family waited until late at night, but all they got from Jin Shui was yet another phone call saying he would be home late. After seeing her father off, Adi saw Xiaoguan dropping Jin Shui off in a luxury car. The two of them were having a wonderful conversation inside. At that moment, her heart sank to the bottom. She began to wonder if men really do have a change of heart once they become rich.
Don't you feel it? It seems we were much happier when we were living in that tiny partitioned room.
Jin Shui was also struggling internally, and he ultimately turned down the offer. His excuse was that he had to stay in Hong Kong to look after his sister. He still remembered his promise to Adi and refused to abandon her.
Because I still have an older sister at home. I promised her that I would take care of her for the rest of my life. I can't just leave her behind. Besides, I know you can definitely find someone who can be of much more help to you than I am mine.
He thought that was the end of it, but the next day, Adi bumped into Xiaoguan at a hair salon. Xiaoguan had no idea who Adi really was. Out of good intentions, he urged Adi not to hold back her brother's future.
Please don't think I'm overstepping. The responsibility of taking care of you should fall to your future husband, shouldn't it? Don't you think this is terribly unfair to your brother?
These words had a profound impact on Adi. She began to reflect on whether she had truly become a stumbling block to Jin Shui's success. She returned home with a heavy heart, only to find Jin Shui in a frantic state over the electronic organizer that she had given away to her sister. It contained crucial work files, and losing them would have dire consequences. At that moment, her long-suppressed emotions finally boiled over.
Don't you know anything at all? What exactly are you capable of doing? Besides cooking and chores at home, what else can you do?
I may not know how to do much, but I know how to make my husband feel comfortable when he comes home. I know how to be a good wife. Isn't that enough, you jerk?
Who are you calling a jerk? Who exactly is the jerk here? So you're saying I'm not a good husband? It's not like I haven't brought money home all this time. Have I ever done anything to betray you? Do you have any idea what I've sacrificed for you?
Don't think I'm clueless if I'm standing in the way of your success. Just say so and I'll leave.
Then go get out of here right now. Stop being a nuisance and just get out.
This fierce quarrel became the final straw that broke their marriage. In this argument, every word cuts like a knife. Because it is so raw and real, it's no longer about who is right or wrong. Shui is bellowing out the frustration of sacrificing a bright future, venting the resentment of being misunderstood. But what Adi hears is that her lifelong devotion and support are being utterly dismissed and even loathed in the end. These words completely destroyed Adi's sense of worth as a wife. At this moment, their love was torn to shreds by the widening gap in their personal growth. Adi offered no further explanation. She returned to her parents' house, and after a brief farewell to her family, she chose to leave for good. She decided to step out of his life to pave the way for his success. Jin Shui didn't realize the gravity of the situation at first, not until Adi's younger sister rushed into his office and slammed an electronic organizer in front of him. Scolding him for being heartless and ungrateful did he finally snap out of it. The sister told him that Adi had known about the Singapore trip all along, and that her leaving was actually her final act of support for him.
You heartless, ungrateful man. My sister did so much for you, just hoping for the day you'd finally succeed. Now that things are finally actually looking out. My sister is a total fool. She even said she'd help you one last time before she left. If it were me, I would have hacked you to death instead of helping you.
It wasn't until this moment that Jinshui finally realized Adi's deep devotion and the immense sacrifices she made. Overcome with regret, he searched for her frantically, but there was no trace of her. Reflecting on his mistakes, he eventually followed Xiaguan to Singapore. 2 years later, Shui became successful in Singapore, but he and Xiaguan never ended up together. Throughout those 2 years, Jinshui could never forget Adi. He often flew back to Hong Kong to visit the room they once shared, the place that held all their memories of hardship and sweetness. Once a person carries such a deep longing, they are like a kite that can never find its way back to Earth. Until this particular trip back, he finally saw the person he'd been dreaming of day and night. Adi had changed. She was no longer that simple girl from the countryside. 2 years of traveling the world had made her confident, composed and worldly. Their reunion wasn't the emotional scene of hugs and tears he had imagined. Instead, it felt somewhat distant and awkward.
You've changed.
Shouldn't I? You've changed too.
I heard you've been traveling everywhere these past 2 years. Almost all over the world, right? Yaha.
It's good to meet new people and see more of the world.
It is.
It's been good. Their conversation was polite yet felt like that of strangers. As Adi turned to leave once more, Jinshui finally caught up to her, breaking the final barrier between them.
I want to tell you, Miss Kwan is getting married to her boyfriend next month. Oh!
Give him my congratulations.
This news is the best proof of Jinshui's emotional fidelity over the past 2 years. At the end of the film, he lifts Adi up and spins her around happily on the street. After the pains of growth, their love finally finds its fulfillment. This reunion scene is handled with great sophistication, as we witness a brand new version of Ardis. In these 2 years, instead of wallowing in self-pity, she chose the path of self-growth. What Jinshui sees is a woman who can now stand as his equal. This equality is the sole foundation upon which they can reconcile. Had Adi remained the person she was 2 years ago, even if they met again, their story would have been impossible to sustain. The most touching part of love isn't the thrill of a rags to riches story, nor is it the sweetness of romance. It simply and candidly reveals the true essence of marriage. Marriage is not a static contract, but a dynamic journey together. In reality, many couples, much like Jinshui and Adime, support each other through times of poverty, because back then their goals were perfectly aligned. But once one partner breaks free from the struggle and finds success, if the other remains stagnant, then the love they once shared becomes a barrier today. It's not that someone had a change of heart, but that their worlds are no longer the same. He gazes at the view from the mountaintop, while you see only the mundane trifles of daily life. When two people can no longer share the same world, separation becomes inevitable. Yet the film offers us an idealized conclusion. Through her own growth, Adi eventually catches up with Jinshui. But in reality, many stories like Adi's might not have such a happy ending. So this movie isn't advising women not to wish for their husband's success, nor is it saying that men naturally change when they gain wealth. Instead, it uses a starkly realistic story to remind us, on the long journey of life for every one of us, no matter who your companion is, never forget that while pulling them forward, you must also wait for your soul to catch up. While racing to keep pace with another, you must also create a scenery of your own. A broken mirror may indeed be mended, but only if you both have evolved into better, clearer mirrors.